All right, let's turn our attention back now to the center of the universe, Toronto Centre even. And bring in Sun News contributor Marco Glassman from our studios in Toronto Centre. And here in Ottawa, independent journalist Justin Ling is in our Ottawa newsroom tonight. Fellas, we all sat there on Twitter watching CPAC because that's the kind of junkies we are. We love debates. Marco, let me start with you. What did you think of the debate in Toronto Centre last night?
Well, David, I'm not surprised that Linda McQuaig has been calling out Chrystia Freeland and trying to debate her as much as possible. I think that what you saw last night, especially between the two of them, who are really the star candidates, if you will, in this riding, what you saw is a clear contrast, and I would say a clear difference in how to portray a message. And I found Linda McQuaig was probably the strongest in the debate, particularly in regards to her and Chrystia Freeland. I thought that Linda McQuaig definitely got the better, but overall, it was a pretty fun debate to watch.
Justin, I got asked tonight who won the debate, and I don't know if anybody won. I usually go against expectations. Jeff Pollock is on the right end of the table there in the darkest suit. He's the conservative. I actually thought he exceeded my expectations. I didn't expect much. John Deverell, who we're looking at now, the Green Party guy, sorry, waste of time just going on about proportional representation. And I thought McQuaig and Freeland held their own.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Pollock did a pretty good job. He evidently got some pretty good media training from the Conservative Party. He certainly knew his talking points pretty well, and he came on them pretty strong. He knows his government's record, and he stumped it pretty well. But as his own candidate, I don't know that he really actually proved himself as anything more than a vessel for the Conservative Party, which is, I guess, something to consider on its own. But the other two candidates, Freeland and McQuaig, as far as I'm concerned, they were just stumping on slightly different talking points the entire night. They said absolutely nothing of substance, and it's no different than what every single tweet they've sent out for the past several months. They basically just kept hitting on this vague notion of the middle class getting squeezed. They repeated the idea of inequality again and again and again, and they pumped their book all night. They didn't actually say anything. It was
a book club, yeah.
Pretty much. They didn't offer any solutions. They really didn't offer any policy substance or really offer any way in which they would change the party at all. They didn't establish their credentials in the riding. They didn't establish their credentials as economists. They really didn't do much of anything at all.
Well, let's talk about that, because the format for this debate was really, they're taking calls or tweets from people watching, so who knows what the questions are being. But the last question did go to the issue that has been, I think, a central one of this campaign. It's about Chrystia Freeland's residency and the fact that she has lived not only outside the riding, outside the country. Listen to this clip, and Justin, I'm going to come to you first for your thoughts about it.
50% of the people in Toronto are not born in this country. I really believe the day you become a citizen, you have as much of a right to participate in the country as someone who is descended from United Empire loyalists. And then second thing I would say is I really believe, in this job interview that we're having, my international experience is something that I'm bringing to the table. I'm saying Canada, each individual company in Toronto Centre, each person who lives here is participating in the world community and in the world economy. And the things that I've learned, I'm bringing back home and offering to use them to work for you.
Now, Justin, is this an issue? Should she be worried about it? The fact that she hasn't lived in Toronto, she's lived in the States for the last 6 or 7 years.
This is just shades of Michael Ignatieff all over again. I mean, the NDP are basically taking a page out of Harper's playbook and saying that Chrystia Freeland didn't come back for you. Will it be effective? I don't know. Her defense of it is not spectacular. She is definitely not cold to the idea of her being a bit of a media elite who came back to share her experiences with the riding. I don't know if it's going to affect her. I mean, most of the time in local elections, voters don't really care where the candidate's from, where they were living. They really look at the party and they consider the national implications of it. So I'm not sure that's actually going to impact her chances in Toronto Centre. On the flip side, the NDP are certainly hitting on the idea that she's not from Toronto. She's not even from Canada. She doesn't care about Canada. It's really the line they're putting forward. And they've been releasing press releases all day after the debate yesterday, saying things like she's always been in favor of shipping jobs to China and that she has no interest in Canada, and that during her time at Reuters, she had no interest, or I guess she didn't care about the jobs of her employees. So they're definitely going to keep hitting on that line. The Conservatives, meanwhile, are just, I think, leaning back and kind of enjoying the irony of the NDP adopting their messaging.
If it works. Marco, what do you think? Big deal?
Well, yeah, I think it's a big deal, David. I think what strikes me is she keeps saying that she's applying for a job interview, and I really hate that messaging. I mean, when you're the MP for a community, you're representing that community. It's not about the job. It's not about the pay. It's about the opportunity to represent your community, your constituents.
To serve.
And I think I have a big problem with that message. And you know, what also strikes me, David, is last night she actually pretty much came out and said she was the hand-picked candidate for the riding. And I found that really shocking, because it basically, I guess, validates all of the questions whether Justin Trudeau had a hand-picked candidate parachuted in, and when he had promised in his nomination that he would have free and fair nominations. So I think that that's a big question, and I guess in a way she validated that controversy.
Well, and let me ask you about the point Justin brought up a minute ago too. This idea that when she was in Toronto as an editor, she worked at the Globe and Mail. I was one of her colleagues at the Globe and Mail. She apparently, yes, outsourced some jobs to China, some copy editing jobs to China. So middle-class jobs in her newsroom left the downtown Toronto, went to China. Is that this? And the NDP, Justin's quite right, has been just run into town on this today. Is that going to have traction?
Well, I think it'll have traction in the sense that she's been pushing this messaging of middle-class jobs. I think her big issue is that she keeps not answering the question as to her solutions. I think Linda McQuaig asked her pretty straight up last night what her solutions were to this income inequality that she speaks of, and her answer was really just saying, "Oh, Linda, you know, I'm happy you read my work, but you don't really get it." But she didn't really answer the question. And I think until she does that, I think you need those real solutions. To be fair, Linda McQuaig was also asked on that, and when she was asked about her tax hikes or tax increases, she only answered the question on corporate tax rate, which a little bit was politicking as well, because she didn't want to answer on the income side.
Justin, we only got a few seconds left. This is the Liberal riding to lose. Do you see anything developing that there's a chance that they could lose it?
I think it's possible. I'm not sure it's likely, but I mean, if you read some of this NDP attack messaging, some of this stuff is really brutal. Things like quoting Chrystia Freeland saying shipping middle-class jobs to China is a win for smart managers and their shareholders. I mean, there's some quotes by Freeland that, if played properly, could be really damaging to her campaign. I mean, is McQuaig going to be the upstart candidate that voters are going to turn to as an alternative? I'm less convinced. I think it's entirely in play. Look at some of the polling numbers from Forum Research. It's entirely possible, but it's not very likely.
Justin Ling in Ottawa, Marco Glassman in Toronto, about Toronto Centre. Thanks, gents. Appreciate it.
Thank you.